This evening, we have the privilege of talking with Jonathan Bank, who is both the founder and the artistic director of the Mint Theater on West 43rd Street here in New York. It's the theater dedicated to finding worthy but neglected plays. The Mint has won both a Special Drama Desk Award for unearthing and preserving little-known plays of merit, plus an Obie for sustained excellence, as well as 4 Drama Desk Awards for production in 2010 of So Help Me God, starring Kristen Johnson. Whenever there's a revival of a play, our reviewers, our listeners rather, hear me say, when I saw the other revival, or when I saw it last time, I can never say that when we see a production at the Mint. And there's a very good reason for that, Jonathan. Why is that? Because
we're doing plays that nobody's heard of and that nobody's done in decades, maybe a century.
In fact, The Voice-y Inheritance, at the time that I saw it, was 95 years that no one had seen it. So,
well, it had never been seen in the United States, in spite of the fact that it was, in fact, I think, considered a chestnut in England. Mm-hmm. There have been 7 or 8 major revivals in London, but never a New York production.
How did this happen in your life? What kind of background do you have that's caused you to sit in little rooms, before perhaps Google, looking for these little hidden chestnuts, as you call them?
Well, I was primarily interested in plays that told a story, plays with a good plot. And I wanted to do plays that people didn't know how they ended, so that the discussion at intermission would be, what do you think is going to happen? Instead of, well, I didn't like the way they did X scene, or that mm-hmm. typical New York response to a revival that is seen often. And so that meant hunting around for plays that I'd never heard of. And what I found, the first place I was looking was in anthologies of the best plays of 1920 or what, and you realize, well, there's 3 titles that I'm very familiar with and 2 other titles that I've never heard of. And at some point in time, some editor thought, these 5 plays are all equal. And I started reading the plays that I'd never heard of, and quickly found lots of them that I liked.
So you're kind of the Indiana Jones of plays.
Well, it's funny that you, it's as if it was a setup, because Jackie Maxwell, who's the artistic director of the Shaw Festival at Niagara-on-the-Lake in Canada, actually put that in print about me. Because there was a play that I found, didn't want to produce myself, but I gave it to her, by Githa Sowerby. You remember Githa. And they ended up, the Shaw produced it and published it, and in her introduction she described me as the Indiana Jones of lost plays.
Well, continuing that theme, is there any play that you consider your lost ark or your holy grail?
Well, no. If you know it, then it's already, what I have said over the years is that I'm still kind of skimming the cream off the top, because I'm really primarily looking at published plays, and real Indiana Jones work is finding authors' estates, the box in the basement, and going through the pile that nobody's ever read or produced. That would be the real archaeological work.
What sets you on your trail?
It's funny. It's usually serendipity. Where sometimes I'm interested in a particular title. I'll look up, I'll go into the Times archives and hunt for the title, and you come up with the Sunday piece that covers, the week. And there's a mention of the title that I've been looking for, and what happens there is they say, well, not nearly as funny as such and such. And they go, oh, well, let me read such and such, and then such and such isn't entirely satisfactory, but that author then is, brought to my attention. In the case of Teresa Deevy, who we're producing right now, I actually said, I kind of set a task for myself, which I thought there must be some women who were writing plays in Ireland during the first 50 years of the history of the Abbey Theatre. After all, it was founded by Lady Gregory co-founded. So I thought, that, she was setting an example. There must have been some women, and so I went through the production history of the Abbey Theatre, and I made a list of names, and then started looking for plays.
Well, if I may, now you mentioned, I just saw Temporal Powers, which is the second part of what you're calling the DV project, and I didn't know there was a DV project. I saw the first one, which was Wife to James Whelan, and now this is the second one, and then you just recently told me something about how many there are. Go ahead, tell us.
Well, we'll be doing 3 of her full-length plays. There's a 4th full-length play that I don't currently have plans to produce, a 5th that is lost. Mm-hmm. That would be my holy grail,
okay,
I think.
There we go.
And then there are a bunch of short plays, and we've done readings of 3 of those short plays, and there'll be another 4 or 5 readings over the next 2 years.
Do you find your audiences are excited about her as you are?
Yes.
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 This was a woman who, I think, lost her hearing and discovered the theater as a way to practice her lip syncing?
Lip reading,
lip
yes.
reading, excuse
me. Exactly. She was, she aspired to be a teacher, and she lost her hearing around the age of 19 or 20, and she dropped out of college at that point, and went to London to study lip reading. She had Meniere's disease, which actually ran in the family. So an older sister had lost her hearing, and the family had the routine down, and they sent her to London to study lip reading. And there she fell in love with the theater, and decided that she wanted to become a playwright, which is the oddest thing, for a deaf woman to decide she wanted to be. But
well, a little more oddly, she ended up writing for the radio after that?
That's right. So she in the 40s, she began adapting her work for the radio and writing original plays for the radio after Wife to James Whelan, the play that we produced last year, was rejected by the Abbey. And I think certainly one of her finest plays, if not her finest. I don't know. I love them all, but and she was really heartbroken, and that was made for a kind of a clean break with the Abbey, and so she started looking for other avenues.
Which play are you currently doing?
Temporal Powers is the name of the play.
Can you give us a quick?
In brief, we have a married couple that has just been evicted from their home, and they take refuge for the night in an abandoned ruin on the hillside of Ireland, and there they find 100 pounds wrapped up in dirty old cloth. And
pounds being the currency.
Pounds being the currency, and being a fortune at the time. And Min, the wife, says, "It's the hand of God. We've been saved. We could go to America and get a fresh start." And Michael says, "Well, I want to take it down to the priest and see what he thinks. I think this money was probably stolen. It wouldn't be right for us to keep it." And that in the first 5 minutes, mm-hmm. that happens, and we trace that argument over the course of a day.
It's beautifully done. Who do you go to for the dialect work? Your plays have British dialects, Scottish dialects, Irish dialects. To whom do you go?
Well, Amy Stoller is our dialect coach and has been for all of our productions mm-hmm. dating back 15 years. And she does a tremendous amount of research, and
it's the best dialect work in New York, as far as I'm concerned.
I
don't hear bad dialect and bad accents at the Mint.
Well, we always think that Amy and I, the key. If the reviews make no mention at all, then you're in good shape.
Since you like plays that no one has seen before, have you ever thought about nurturing new playwrights?
Lots of other people are doing it, and they're doing it well. And there's a kind of shifting sand to a new play when you're working on it. Something doesn't work, then the author jumps up and says, "Well, let me change that." And that's a less interesting challenge to me than a play that has been done, we believe, and so that when you get into rehearsal, the task is figure it out. It doesn't make sense, but that's because we're not smart enough. So if we keep working at it, we'll find the sense to it. And the other thing is really the way stories got told in the theater 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years ago is different from the way stories are told in the theater now. And I'm just a fan of that kind of Aristotelian plot-based drama that we produce.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming,
you.
Jonathan.
Thanks for
I look
having me.
forward to all of what's coming up.